Good morning, fifth grade. Today's learning target is I can make my writing organized and sound better by using a revising checklist. Yesterday, we revised our paragraphs by adding author's direct words from the text. Today, we are going to practice revising paragraphs by using a checklist. We are still in the revising part of the writing process. Okay, so we're still just making our writing better by moving sentences around, taking away sentences, or adding sentences that we missed. So, what is a revising checklist? A revising checklist is a checklist, so it has boxes or circles that you can make checks on it, and where you check off what your writing has. And it lets you know what you're missing. And that's what you would go back and revise. So your revising checklist for this hamburger paragraph you've been working on has the following things. First one is I organize using the hamburger strategy. So here's the chart that we looked at. And these are the three things that you need in order for it to have a hamburger, in order for it to be a hamburger paragraph. One, it has to have a topic sentence as the first sentence. It has to have evidence from the text that is in the middle of the paragraph. And it has to have a closing sentence as the last sentence. We spent a few days doing this. And here's the chart to remind you. The second thing in our revising checklist is I use at least one exact quote from the author. So that's when you cite evidence and you actually put it in quotation marks and you use one of these sentence starters. That's what we worked on yesterday. The next thing is I use transition or linking words to connect one sentence to the other. That was another lesson we worked on, and this is the chart to help you remember what that is. And finally, I use my own words to explain my evidence. So what we're going to do now is I actually copied one of your fifth grade friends' paragraph, and we're going to read it together. And I'm going to see if this, using the revising checklist, what they have or what they're missing. So the first thing I organized using the hamburger strategy. So I have a topic sentence, that's the first sentence. Let's read. Let's move this over. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. The factory bosses are very mean and cold-hearted people that don't care about women. Yes, that is a topic sentence. Now we know that what this student is going to write about is how the factory bosses are mean and cold-hearted. And they should so they do have a topic sentence. They let us know what their paragraph is going to be about. So I'm going to go ahead and put a check next to that. They do that. I have evidence from the text that is in the middle of the paragraph. So, like our hamburger paragraph, they need to have evidence from the text, and it should be at least three details. So, let's see. For example, the factory bosses set mean rules that make them sound like they don't care about the girls. I underline that because that's the first detail. This shows they don't care about girls. Also, the bosses hire men to be to beat them and other strikers. To be, I think they meant to say Clara and other strikers. That's the second detail. You can find this information on page 5. This shows that they're very mean people. Finally, the bosses beat Clara and send her to jail a lot of times. That is the third detail. So, yes, they have evidence from the text. So, we're going to go ahead and put a check there. They have three pieces of evidence. And the last thing they need is I have a closing sentence as the last sentence. Let's read it. In conclusion, these details show that the factory bosses are very mean and cold hearted people that don't care about women. Very good. This student doesn't add another detail, they just sum it all up. It kind of sounds like the topic sentence. So, yes, this student has a closing sentence. So, we're going to put a check here and say that they do use the hamburger paragraph. Okay. And right away, if you only see one or two sentences in your paragraph, then you're probably missing stuff. You want to see what you're missing. So the next thing, I use at least one quote from the author. So although this student puts a lot of details, they don't actually go and cite a real evidence. They do say here, you can find this information on page 5, but they, instead of doing it that way, they need to find one of the sentence starters on page 5, the author stated, and then use the exact words. So this student needs to go ahead and do this part right here. They need to add at least one quote from the author. So we're not going to check it. The next thing, I use transition linking words. Oh yes, this student uses so many linking words. I'm gonna pause it. I want, if you're with the teacher, your teacher can pause it, and you guys can find what transition words you see here. Okay, boys and girls. So hopefully you said some of these. You said, for example, I'm gonna highlight that. This student used for example. This student uses also. This student also uses finally. And to show the last sentence, the concluding sentence, they wrote in conclusion. Okay, so yes, this student uses lots of transition words. So they definitely can get a check there. And then finally, I use my own words to explain my evidence. This student does such a good job at doing that. They keep putting everything in their words. This shows that they don't care about girls. This shows they're very mean. And even the evidence that this student puts is not all from the book. It's in their own words. Oh yes, this student does a really good job at that. So we're going to go ahead and give a check for this. So if this student was going to revise, I would say that they should work on this. They should work on this right here, which is adding a quote from the author using one of these sentence starters. Okay, boys and girls, just like we did now, we are going to go ahead in Otis, and you're going to get a paragraph that you're going to use a revision checklist for to see if the student does all of these things. And then you can see, what is the student missing? What should they work on next? If you didn't complete your paragraph from yesterday, you should first complete that, which is writing lesson 8. Do you know what to do when you get on Otis? Show me 5th to 5. You can also write it in the chat. If you're unsure what to do, you can watch the video again and pause it to make sure you understand. Ask a teacher, and at the very least, persevere. That means just try your best and don't leave anything blank, even if it seems a little hard. All right, bye-bye, good luck.